So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to the afternoon session of this conference, which is the Global Insights panel. And this is the part one. I hope you had a very good lunch. I hope so. IES serves a good lunch. And I look forward to chairing this two-part session of our event in the afternoon. So this session will be a chance to hear from the diverse group of global leaders and dignitaries in the field who will share their views on how to advance the progress on energy efficiency from the perspectives of their countries and organizations. So in a moment, I will introduce each speaker in turn. Then I may ask one or two questions at the end of the session, if the time permits. And so we had a very excellent discussions in the two panels in the morning. And I would like to keep up with the momentum. And we heard from the ministers, CEOs, about the efficiency from their perspectives. So this afternoon's discussion is a chance to go one step further in terms of gaining a better understanding of what happens, what are needed at the level of implementing energy efficiency on the ground. And this discussion is particularly timely and critical in the context of the market report that we released last week. And that was discussed already in the morning. So we know that the global energy demand rose by nearly 2% in 2017, and CO2 emissions rose by 1.4% after the plateau between 2014 and 2016. So what policy action on we are observing that the policy action on the energy efficiency is rather weakening instead of strengthening. So today is the first step in correcting the trend, and your insights and ongoing efforts are of the utmost importance. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce our first speaker this afternoon. So Mr. Kenneth Kellogg, I hope I'm okay, good, is Senior Vice President and Head of the Group Communications and Reputation at the Danfoss. So Mr. Kellogg joined the Danfoss in 2017 from IES SAS, a leading facility service company with 500,000 employees globally, where he was the Senior Vice President, Head of Group Communications, and previously he has held numerous leading communication roles with the Coca-Cola Company in Europe, Asia Pacific, and in the United States. So, Mr. Kellogg, the floor is yours. Please, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, a big thank you to IEA for organizing this conference and to focus on energy efficiency. And a big thank you for inviting me to come here and present. As presented, I come from Danfoss, and we are a company which provide a wide range of products in the area of energy efficiency. We also provide products to enable the electrification of our economy. So with that background, I'm sure you understand why I'm so delighted to be at this conference, because it's really at the heart of what we do at Danfoss. At Danfoss, we're also trying to take our own medicine in terms of energy efficiency. When we get to 2020, Danfoss will be double as efficient as we were in 2007 in terms of our own energy efficiency. So we will generate the same output with half the energy. And that's really what energy efficiency is about. It's about getting more with less. And the story of Danfoss is that's not a standalone story. We are located in the southern parts of Denmark, and there we have agreed with the authorities that we want to turn that part of Denmark into a carbon neutral region by 2029. The capital of Denmark, Copenhagen, have made the same commitment, but to achieve that by 2025. And Hopefully that will happen, and when it does, that will actually mean that Copenhagen will most likely be the first carbon neutral capital in the world. To achieve this, we not only need to think and dream out of the ordinary, we also need to do something out of the ordinary. And both cities, both the southern parts of Denmark and Copenhagen, have energy efficiency as core elements of their strategy. In southern parts of Denmark, we have already taken out 40% of the energy consumption within the last 10 years through energy retrofit, green transportation, and the use of heat pumps in the more rural areas of the municipality. So, without doubt, in our perspective, energy efficiency is actually the largest contributor to emission restrictions, and it will be what is needed to help us to stay within the 2 degrees scenario. Although we have that recognition, the fact is that most cities and most communities, they waste a lot of energy for heating and cooling because energy efficiency is neglected. I'm sorry to say that even in Denmark, which used to be recognized for having a strong focus on energy efficiency, even there the focus has been slipping, and in the last few political agreements made, energy efficiency has not had the same attention levels as we as an industry would have liked for. For that reason, we've formed an alliance, Synergy, to keep attention on the need for focusing on energy. Because what happens if we don't focus on energy efficiency? Well, really, it's like when we shower in the morning and then we decide to keep the shower running because there's no need to turn it off because we will have another shower tomorrow morning. Or we drive to the office in our car and we decide not to turn it off and keep the car running while we work because we're going to use it again to drive home from work. It sounds silly, of course none of us would keep the shower running or keeping the car running, but in reality that is what we do in our houses. Every single day we do exactly that. Our buildings keep water, heating, cooling running, and we waste money and we waste energy because of that. Ladies and gentlemen, energy efficiency must be at the core of our policy making. And why? Well, because energy efficiency is about job and growth, and it's about innovation, and it's about good business. We often speak about the cost of energy efficiency, but as I think we have pointed out very clearly at some of the earlier sessions today, this is really not the right way to think about energy efficiency. It shouldn't be about the costs. It's conceptually wrong to talk about cost. It's about return on investment. And yes, there are plenty of examples. We've seen some of them already today. There are plenty of examples that energy efficiency pays back. It's good investments. It's not costs. But even having the cost, having something which is good for the pocket in mind, there's one more very important argument I want to highlight, and that is that energy efficiency is what it takes to keep this world worth living in. I mean, back to the 2% scenario, this is what it takes to reach that goal. Let me share 4 proof points to show the untapped potential of energy efficiency across sectors. The first one, we can reduce the final energy demand in buildings by 30% just by optimizing the energy flows. And that's an investment which we can get back in 2 to 5 years. And by doing so, we will actually free up more electricity for the growing demand for e-vehicles. 2, we can turn the water sector completely energy neutral, and thereby we will save what is equivalent to 4% of the world's energy consumption, which goes into the water segment. And again, an investment which can be paid back in 5 years. 3, we can recover waste heat via district heating networks and local space heating. We can take that from the industrial heat process, heat coming from supermarket or from the growing server farms, data centers. And in Europe alone, that would actually, keep in mind here, we have so much waste energy in Europe that if we are able to capture that, we will have energy enough for all our buildings, something which today is lost. And fourth, we can take 10 conventional coal-fired power plants off the grid if we are able to capture the excess energy from all the supermarkets' refrigeration in Europe. That's 10 power plants where politicians will not go and open them, but there could be a celebration when they close down these power plants. So stories are endless, and on top of all this, digitalization will help us speed up and exploit even new areas of efficiencies, such as sector coupling, demand-side management, and in fact, these are just stories. The key question today is about speed. Are we moving ahead with enough speed and scale? And I don't know what you think, but I can say that on behalf of a big private company in this industry, I'm sorry to say that I don't think we move ahead. The answer is unfortunately a clear no. We are not moving ahead at the speed we need to. Investments in energy efficiency are still far below what's their cost optimal potential, and that is the reason we need more political attention. We need attention to this area. We need policies to accelerate the rollout of energy efficiencies and to move barriers and to show a clear direction. The good news is that we have proof that in areas where there have been policies that they are working. We have the growth curve of Europe over the past decades, and as I'm sure you've seen this before, but it's a fantastic argument. It shows that there is a decoupling, that we have been able to grow without growing any energy consumption at the same level. The decoupling is there, and that is a direct result of technological progress and of strong political will. We can do if we want. And I want to share with you a few examples of what we have learned from the policy making which has already taken place. First, and that is that the CO2 cap and trade schemes that they work, they are central pillars of climate policies, but they are not enough. And we think that we should look into, and it was discussed earlier today as well from the input from Germany, that we need to have a price on CO2 also in the non-quota sector. Two, that we accelerate the adoption of building codes and minimum energy performance standards at global level. The recent report from IEA on space cooling is a great example of how crucial and beneficial it is, and how that in Europe we need to triple the energy renovation rate in existing buildings. The third learning we have from policies is that we must promote sector coupling, and we must incentivize energy optimization at system level. Today, artificial intelligence and sensors are able to help us. In Danfoss, we have a company in Finland which, based on artificial intelligence on weather reports and expected consumption, can predict the energy consumption in the district energy net, and by that take off the peak and the pressure on the system. But something like this could be further pushed through rethinking energy taxation. And fourth, we must streamline energy efficiency in sectoral legislation, for instance, building, water regulatory, transport, and agriculture. So summing it all up, energy efficiency is a key factor in decarbonizing our economies and to make our economies future-proof. There is strong political support is necessary to make this happen. Action is urgent. We are on this journey and we don't have a choice. It is happening. I might have sounded a little pessimistic, but I want to end on an optimistic note, because coming from a company which is founded on energy efficiency, I can assure you that we have what it takes, because these technologies are already there. We don't need to wait for a breakthrough innovation. The technologies we need for energy efficiency, they are there, and we've seen in areas where policies have been made that they are working. So there's no need for any of us to keep the water running when we shower until tomorrow. We can save energy, and we can bend the emission curve today. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Kaihook. Very forceful and very convincing presentation. And the points made by you, for instance, the energy efficiency should be the largest contributor to bring the world to the sustainable energy and climate path. And I think that's quite consistent with the various reports from the IEA, like World Energy Outlook or the more recent Renewable Market Report. And also, you have shown, and this is already discussed in the morning session, that actually the payback time with the existing technologies for the efficiency investments, they're actually pretty short. So, so these make sense in terms of the return on investments, but the question is why it's not happening fast enough. So I think that we would like to explore this question, if possible, going forward. So let me turn to the next speaker. So next speaker in this session is Mr. Ahmed Al-Zahrani, and he's the Director General of the Saudi Energy Efficiency Center. Mr. Al-Zahrani has over 23 years of experience in the field of energy, having held a variety of positions in oil and gas processing, power generation, water desalination, and energy efficiency. And over the past 8 years, Mr. Al-Zahrani has played an instrumental role in developing the field of energy efficiency in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Under his leadership, the Kingdom has made significant progress in the field as he oversaw the development and implementation of a large number of energy efficiency initiatives targeting mostly the transportation, industry, and building sectors. So, Mr. Al-Zahrani, the floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would like also to thank IEA for the invitation. Yesterday and today, I listened to a lot of presentations, and I noticed that some countries, they started long time ago, and they're now talking about the energy efficiency 2.0. At the same time, we heard presentations from other countries where they just started. What I would like to show you today and share with you what we did in Saudi Arabia to address the energy efficiency. Because I think the main objective of this forum is to learn from each other and how this country did and learn so others can benefit. I hope I can add something to you when we leave this room. Today I will not be talking about the center, the Saudi Energy Efficiency Center. I will be talking about a program where 33 government agencies and state-owned enterprise collectively working together to improve the efficiency in Saudi Arabia. The center started in 2010, and they gave us several mandates. But mandate number one is to have a national energy efficiency program. And we started that in the year 2012. Today, we have 13 teams working in 80 plus efficiencies, initiatives, and programs. We feel that we did something good. The government in 2018, in addition to the demand side management of our scope, they add to us the supply side, which is electricity generation, water generation, transmission, distribution, in addition, which is a unique, to improve the efficiency of the feedstock to the industry. This is the governance of the program and a key success of our story. The chairman of the committee is the Minister of State of Energy Affairs. At the same time, he's son of the King of Saudi Arabia. We have also 11 members in the committee are deputy minister level and above. Today, we have 150 professionals from 33, as I said, government and state-owned companies. The following are the technical teams. Yes, we focus initially on building industry transportation, urban planning and district cooling. We have TIC, which is our implementation arm. TIC stands for Testing, Inspection, and Certification. We have Utilities team, which is just formulated. We have Awareness. We have Human Capital Development. And we have ISCO and Funding. Because of the limited time, I will be talking about just few initiatives that we did. Industry consume around 44%. Building consume around 29%. And transportation consume around 21%. The total, which is the demand side, around 94% consumed by these three sectors. We will be working on utilities and feedstock soon. We started our program in 2012. For the industry, we focus only in three sectors: petrochemical, steel, and cement. 41 companies consume 70% of the energy. We said, okay, let's focus on the 41 companies. We feel happy to see this result. Steel improved its efficiency by 1.7%, cement 2%, petrochemical 2.8%. Phase 2, 5% of the energy consumption is consumed by aluminum. Third phase, now as we speak, working with 60 companies which consume 13%. We are assessing them to see what are the potential and work with them to have a target, ambitious target for them to achieve. By the way, we signed an agreement with the Industrial Development Fund. These companies can get soft loans from the Industrial Fund to fund energy efficiency project. Okay. Buildings. 29% of our consumption goes to buildings. We issued 24 standards, but I can give you one example. In Saudi Arabia, the weather is very hot. Yesterday and today we talk a lot about cooling. In Saudi Arabia, we need it most of the year. And believe me, during summertime, the energy bill of a house, almost 70% of that goes to cooling. In 2012, when we started our program, the standard is calling for energy efficiency rating of 7.5. Today, 11.8, 57% improvement. Not only this, we want also to promote a high efficient AC unit. Next Monday, we will launch a government program to give incentive to consumer to go and buy high-efficient ACs. The pilot will start next Monday. The minimum energy efficiency rate for this program is 12.4, which is 10% higher than the standard. And the full rollout will be next summer, and it will be 13%, 13 AR, which is almost double of what we started in 2012. In transportation, we developed what we call it Saudi Cafe, similar to many other countries. But you can see, we started our program in 2016. We developed a standard. We signed agreement with all auto manufacturers. Without standards, you can see between 2012 and 2015, only 2% improvement. When we launched our program in 2016, you can see improved by 99% in 3 years. Label, when we started our program transportation, the E, which is excellent, was only 14% of the car models are meeting, excellent. But what we found in 2017 that almost 39% already in the E, which is excellent. So we have to add excellent plus. So just in 2 years, we push the market. And today also we have a new label for the electrical vehicle. It's good, always good to have standards, specification. But how to enforce it? No one entity can do everything. We have a lot of product coming from outside. So custom, they need to work. We have a lot of product manufactured inside Saudi Arabia. So we want the Ministry of Industry to work. And a lot of products are in the market. Also, we want the Ministry of Commerce to do their job. So what we did so far, more than 37,000 visits to the outlet shops and to the manufacturing facilities to inspect, collect sample, and send it to the lab. More than 5,000 infraction issues. 75% non-compliant factors, 75 non-compliant factors. We close these factors for a while until they produce product that meet the standard. 2.7 million product re-exported, come from outside. They didn't meet the standard, we have to re-export them. 2.1 million product confiscated because we found it in the market. Human capital development. We signed an agreement with 5 universities. Today, they are teaching energy efficiency courses. Also, we signed an agreement with the Association of Energy Engineers, and we have 3 certification programs. CEM, which is certified energy manager, certified energy auditor, and certified measurement and verification. Today we have 22 certification sessions conducted in Saudi Arabia, 180 certified individuals. Also, we were inspired by the Industrial Energy Assessment Center in the US. And we have now an Industrial Energy Assessment Center in one of our universities, which is King Fahd University. We have 14 undergraduate students, an exchange program between the university in Saudi Arabia and the Industrial Assessment Center in the United States. Finally, 40% of our budget is dedicated to awareness. Yes, we started to me late, which is 2012. Still people are not fully aware of the importance of energy efficiency, but believe me, if you ask a normal person in Saudi Arabia in 2012, what is energy efficiency? He will tell you, I don't know. Today, I can assure you, most of the people, I cannot say all, but most of the people, they will tell you, are you talking about building or transportation? Yes. And we are using a lot of social media. We have a Twitter account, which is, in Saudi Arabia, we have a follower of almost 300,000 people following our account. Before I conclude, during the lunch break, I met someone, and I introduced myself. I said, my name is Ahmed Zahrani, Director General of Saudi Energy Efficiency Center. And he said, from Saudi Arabia? I said, yes. He said, you are the biggest energy producing country. Do you really need energy efficiency program? I told him, wait for my presentation. We are truly committed in Saudi Arabia toward energy efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Zahrani, for this very impressive presentation. Of course, we all know that Saudi Arabia is a global leading energy supplier, but you have made such a rapid progress only in the past 6 years with this rapid development in this area. So I would like to congratulate that, and we hope to hear more from you. So the time is limited, so I move on to the next speaker. The third speaker is our permanent representative to the OECD, Ambassador Carsten Stauer. Please let me just take this opportunity to say thank you on behalf of the IEA for Denmark's generous support to the IEA's work, including our work on energy efficiency in emerging economies, what we call the E4 program. And Ambassador Carsten Stauer took up his duty as the permanent representative of Denmark to the OECD in Paris on the 1st of September of this year. Prior to his posting to Paris, Ambassador Stauer was Denmark's permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva and the permanent representative to the United Nations in New York. He was the State Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in charge of Denmark's development cooperation from 2001 to 2007. Previous positions include a term as the Undersecretary for Bilateral Development Cooperation and as Undersecretary for the Administrative Affairs. He has also been Denmark's ambassador to Israel and Director for the Development Policy and Planning. Ambassador Stauer has also chaired or served on the boards of numerous international organizations and forums, including the United Nations Development Program and the International Red Cross. So thank you very much, and the floor is yours, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. This kind of CV that makes you basically wonder whether you should retire soon. No, thank you very much for the invitation to do a presentation here, and to basically come with a case story in point on Denmark. I will start by a little bit of historical background, and then I'll try to present the energy efficiency efforts in a context, and I'll also come forward with at least one or two good examples and one or two not so good examples in order to stress some of the journey that we have passed over the recent 30 years or 40 years. Let me start, this one. Historical context. Those of you who are old enough and old as me will know this picture or similar pictures from your own background. This is the oil crisis 1973, the oil shock, the price increase, and in our case we came from a country at the point in time had just started gas production in the North Sea, but basically 99% dependent on imported oil, and one of the reactions to the shortages and the price hikes was the introduction of car-free Sundays. And this is such a car-free Sunday. It was a wake-up call for the country. We had a situation where a prominent politician turned himself in because he had been sleep driving on a Sunday morning to go to the bakery for bread, and then all of a sudden we realized that he was the only car on the street and he had committed a heinous crime. And so went to the police station and said that I'm guilty as charged or soon to be charged. But this was the kind of situation that we had in the early 70s, and it led, of course, to very much refocusing on the whole issue of energy supply and energy security. It led to the first plan on energy in Denmark. We had, I think, at that point in time, 4 elements into the plan. One was turn to gas, very convenient for a soon-to-come gas-producing country from the North Sea. The other elements was district heating. Then we put an emphasis on renewables, and you all know the story of wind energy from Denmark. But the 4th element was exactly energy efficiency. The fact that we put an effort into energy efficiency was not least driven by the whole energy security issue, but of course also the very simple calculation that so many of the previous speakers had alluded to, the fact that basically if we can save money on energy, it means increased welfare for citizens, it means increased competitiveness, better cost efficiency for companies. It's a no-brainer in many ways, and there we come back to the whole issue of where we actually are on that. But for us and for many others, this was also a challenge to take this issue into business opportunities. The history of Danish wind energy Vestas is familiar, but on energy efficiency, of course, Velux, windows, Danfoss, thermostats, a lot of companies sprang to this and tried to get much more into the development of new technological approaches and working on this. And also in the consultancy business, we have seen a great increase in business opportunities. So let me then shorten a little bit what is happening here? This one, yeah. This is basically a micro presentation of what Ken Kjærhøj also was mentioning at a European level, the whole issue of decoupling energy consumption from economic growth. That's our history, it's a European history. This has been what we have achieved since 1973, being able to double GDP and at the same time maintain energy consumption and of course increase energy intensity as a consequence of that. It's a very good story, and of course the challenge is how to, first of all, explanations on what actually have driven this story. The energy efficiency improvements that we can see on this chart is led primarily by better insulation of buildings, more efficient appliances, and higher efficiency in industries. There's no surprise in this. This is basically a textbook case. And if you look at then on the supply side, 2 driving factors, use of combined heat and power production, and also more efficient power plants and more efficient individual boilers. But the case is, I think, very solid on this one. Another slide, which will, if you deconstruct this slide, of course you can see building codes, the way that we have applied building codes in a way that is both dynamic, transparent, and effective. And if you deconstruct this slide, the story, of course, is basically 2 important elements behind the development. First of all, broad political agreements on this. This means that if all or almost all political parties, all possible governments is behind this for a foreseeable future, you can rely on the political commitment to these kind of processes of increasing the demands from the codes. The other one, of course, is that you need to be out there in good time. You need to create long-term predictability for the market to respond to that. In that case, of course, you can basically create a situation where for individual companies that goes into this market on all sides of the equation, it's predictable, it's not going to change, and you can take it all the way to the bank, basically. You can rely on this, and that's been, I think, a very clear driving force in this. We have other examples that you can look at, and in more the same way, I will spare you for that, but there are elements in terms of energy efficiency obligation schemes enforcing ambitious energy target on utilities, Not only did the utilities invest in production and delivering energy, they were also induced to consult households on private energy savings, also kicking off a development in that direction. Second point was subsidies to energy efficient investment in buildings. This has led to heat consumption per square meter decreasing considerably since 1975, actually by 45%. And we of course also made use of energy taxes, among others the CO2 tax on industrial activities. So all these elements are important for us. And I think they create a number of success cases that you can prove to in our national context. But I promise you also that it's not been sunny side of the street, all of it. And this is one example of things where we actually have behaved against our own rules and the way that our own experiences. This has been our use of sales of electric vehicles, and that is basically an illustration of what not to do. If you look at where we are compared to other countries, not least the glorious example of Norway here. But in 2017, you had a meager 0.4% of all new cars in Denmark that were electrical. And when you look into that, and again deconstruct this slide, it's a consequence of a stop-go policy. It's a consequence of uncertain, unsecure, unpredictable taxation policies, uncertain, unsecure ways of creating the infrastructure around electrical vehicles. Stop-go all the time. If you behave like that in this market, of course consumers and all others will react and not join. So if there's anything here, it only stresses the point that if we are to do things here, we need to have more consistent energy policies, broad political agreements, long predictability, and clear rules. So the upside to this is that I think we finally are coming around now, in the sense that when the Prime Minister went to Parliament in early October to present the new government proposal, there was a real emphasis on that we now need to go into electrical vehicles, and an ambition that by 2030 we will actually stop the sale of fossil fuel cars in Denmark and hopefully have a lot of electrical vehicles by that time. So now the investment is there. Hopefully we'll see that entrenched or being committed, confirmed by political agreements over the autumn, and then we'll probably have, hopefully, the same kind of slide on this area that we have had on others. My penultimate slide, and I'm cognizant of time, this is also the other aspect, and Keske referred to this graciously in his introductory remarks, basically that for a country like Denmark, this is not a country story, it's not even a European story, it's a global story, in the sense that we have tried to expand also on our energy collaboration with other countries, and especially with some of the emerging economies, and you can see them on this chart here. The blue lines illustrate our bilateral collaboration out of Copenhagen. The red lines illustrate our commitments through the IEA and our multilateral investment. And you can see a lot of overlap, and it's intentional, in order to solidify commitments bilaterally by working on a multilateral basis. And of course, try to target emerging economies where our own limited efforts can have the highest impact in terms of also limiting greenhouse gases. And I've been very happy to work with Brian Motherway and his division on this, and also to provide the financial support for the E4 program, as Keske was saying. I will stop by, this is the most famous Danish building, and you can find it in Paris. We talked about building codes. This is the La Défense Arc de Triomphe in La Défense, designed by a famous Danish architect, Otto von Spreckelsen, and I hope you all go and visit. I don't know its consumption of energy, but I'm sure it's fine, and according to all kinds of standards, but it's a beautiful work piece. But my very final remark would be that I started by showing these empty streets of Denmark in 1973, a wake-up call. And I think upon reflection with the climate change agenda, and not least the latest IPCC report, the question, of course, is whether we are approaching a similar wake-up call. If you look at Danish opinion polls on what electors and voters see as the major political issues at hand, the only thing outside the health sector and the aging population that would always come up in any kind of opinion polls in any country. Climate change and the fear of the negative impact of climate change is becoming a more driving factor. So the question, and that goes also to this issue of investment in energy efficiency as the necessary precursor to actually achieving the maximum 0.1% target by 2100, is that we are probably at the right time, and hopefully we're also the right people to do the right things at the right time when looking at energy efficiency here. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Stoller, for the very impressive presentation, highlighting both the good success story and also the failures in the policy. But I fully agree that the policy consistency and also the predictability would be the key for the successful policy measures in this area. Thank you. So our next speaker is Ms. Sang Jin. She's the founder and the executive director of the China Council for an Energy Efficient Economy, which was officially registered in 2016 as an integrated platform to promote the multilateral collaboration in communication in energy efficiency policy, technology, and financing. Prior to her work at the Council, Ms. Sang Jin worked in the Energy Foundation China for 10 years in industry energy efficiency in support of developing policy and standards, coordinating project implementation, and promoting best practices dissemination. In particular, Ms. Sang Jin engaged in the development and the implementation of the famous Top 1000 and Top 10,000 Energy Efficiency Program, Energy Management Systems Top Runner Program, and the Green Supply Chain Initiative. She also played a leading role in establishing platforms such as China University Alliance, as well as the Energy Conservation Centers Alliance for Industry Energy Efficiency, leading for better information sharing and exchanges. So, Ms. Sang Jin,
Thank you, IA, for the invitation, and thank you such a great introduction from our panel chair. And I'm Sang Jin from the China Council for Energy Efficient Economy, which is a non-profit and non-government organization based in China. This organization is jointly initiated by the several international organizations and as well as the domestic organizations. And the CCEE, in order to contribute a more energy efficient China in a global context, the CCEE works to integrate the domestic and international resources to establish a platform that inspires the multilateral cooperation and communications, especially encourage the in-depth exchange in policy, management, technologies, financing, and best practice sharing. It's a great honor to be here to share with everyone here the recent progress on energy efficiency in China from an NGO perspective. I know before that most of the time is the Chinese government to share the progress with friends from all over the world, but this time as an NGO, we want to, from our perspective, to introduce the energy efficiency progress in China. As everyone knows, China has experienced rapid development since 1990s, while encountering great climate change and environmental problems as the energy consumption started to soar. The overall situation in China is that the energy consumption has climbed up while the GDP grows very steadily. But however, with years' efforts, the growth of the energy consumption in China, it doesn't work. Sorry. From the chart, you can find that 3 years of the efforts we've taken in China, the overall growth of the total energy consumption has slowed down with average decrease rate from 2006. It decreased from average rate at 6.8% off, and the growth of the total energy consumption even become slower between 2011 to 2015. The rate becomes 2.3%. And as for the energy intensity, you will find that it is keep decreasing from 2005 to 2017 with a noticeable drop up to 37.5% of. What does it mean? It means average decrease rate of 4% off per year. So it's such a great achievement. So all the data from the chart you tell us the truth that China really did a good job and make a great achievements in improving its energy efficiency in the past decades. Next, I will go to the key sectors, industry, transportation, and buildings. The first, I will talking about the industry sector. In industry sector, China is working towards quality-oriented development after many years speed-oriented growth. The growth of the energy intensity enterprises has slowed down, while the strategic emerging and high-tech industries is rising. Besides the phasing out backward capacity campaigns also filled out the less efficient production capacity and the facilities. As a result of the restructuring and the phasing out campaign in China, the industrial energy intensity in China is kept declining in a rate way that much beyond the national average and the world average. So from the work we did in industrial sectors, we also do some, we also taken some measures like the implementation of the energy management system, the application and the scale up of the innovative technology, as well as the standards. We have done a lot of work to add it to the effect. So in a word, the industrial sector is continued to be the greatest contributor in improving the energy efficiency and emission reduction in China. Moreover, the industrial sector is also expected to set aside more space for the development of transportation and building sectors in terms of the energy consumption. On the building side, China is experiencing a large urbanization, which means that the energy consumption and will climb up to by 2030. So before that, the total floor space and the urban population and the per capita floor space will keep growing. But as a developing countries, the service level of the China's buildings is much below than that in developed countries. So in this case, the building sectors is continue to expand in terms of the energy use and floor space. So the biggest challenges here in China building sector is to meet the increasing demand for better services, better building services in a more energy efficient way. So to promote the energy efficiency on buildings, the China government has taken kinds of measures by far, like the fewer restructuring in rural China, like electrification and the implementation of the building energy efficiency codes and green building standards. And they also do the public sector energy efficiency improvement and like the also the deployment of the renewables in buildings. And as for the transportation sectors, the research estimates that the freight demand in China will grow by 4 to 5 times by 2050. That means the energy consumption in transportation sector will continue growing. So start from 2005, the China government had put into practice a series of energy efficiency standards for the new production vehicles, including the light passenger vehicles and the high-duty commercial vehicles. The standards for the light passenger vehicles was introduced or started in 2005, and it was upgraded and tightened in 2008. And 2012 and 2016 respectively. So the recent updated standards set the fuel consumption target of 5 liters per 100 kilometers by 2020. What does it mean? It means an annual decrease of the fuel consumption of 6% between 2016 to 2020. So moreover, in China's mid to long-term the plan, the standards, the fuel consumption of the light passenger vehicles will surpass most of the countries in the world. And in terms of the heavy-duty vehicles, the energy efficiency of the heavy-duty vehicles in China is it's not as good as that in EU and in US. But the first voluntary standards for the high-duty vehicles was published in 2012, and followed that a mandatory standards has been published in 2 years later. So currently, this year, the Chinese government has released the third phase energy efficiency standards for the heavy-duty vehicles, which set a target of the decrease in the fuel consumption of 15% off compared to the 2015 baseline. So, although I just mentioned that although we are very far behind in terms of heavy-duty vehicles, we are far behind the EU and the US, but we believe with the implementation of the current standards, the standards which will come into effect next year, will fill the gap between China and the EU and the US in terms of the heavy-duty vehicles. So that's all for the main progress in key sectors. Next, I would like to talk about the two ends, the money and the market in China. Regarding the money, we usually have three questions when we talk about the money. How big the money is, the scale, and where's the money from, and where's the money go? So from the chart, you will find that in the past 10 years, from 2006 and 2016, there are over 3 trillion Chinese yuan. The total investment is over 3 Chinese trillion yuan for the under energy efficiency. And the government fundings play a very significant role in leveraging a private investment. Let's take the year 2016, for example. In 2016, the government investment only accounts for 18% of the total energy investment, which leverage 4.3 times of the private investment. And the public, the government fundings mainly go to the incentives or subsidies on the production and on the industries for improving the energy efficiency. And most of the money goes to the project direct investment in industry, in building, and in transportations. So if you look at the share, only a very, very small part goes for the capacity building. So if you look at the share of the investment in different sectors, you will find that the industry sector is still the biggest part that the investment goes to. But if we are looking at the shares in the past 5 years, we will find that the share of the industry sector has decreased, and the share of the transportation and building sector is increased. That's to some extent also reflecting the tendency of the energy consumption in China in different sectors. So more money makes bigger market. Next, I will talk about the EPC market in China. That means ESCO industry China. Ever since 2014, China's ESCO industry has become the largest in size, with continuously increase in the output, in the project investment, and the energy savings from the project. In 2017, there were over 6,000 ESCO companies with more than 700,000 employees in China. And the total output of the ESCO industry accounts to the 412 billion Chinese yuan in 27. So with such a rapid and development, the ESCO industry in China has become more and more diverse in the project area, in the business and market model, as well as a financing model, and also as become more and more diverse in the innovative technologies. For example, the ESCO industries before, the 12-year plan period, it means 2011 to 2015, it mainly focused on the industry progress. And then now they go to the building sectors, and even in the future go to the transportation sectors. So it's a big rapid development in the ESCO industries in China. So that's all for the recent progress in China on energy efficiency. So come to a conclusion, I think the Chinese energy efficiency work has the following 4 features. The first is about the policy. Yeah, we have very rigorous policies ever since the 11th 5-year plan period up to now. Yeah, before that we only have the energy conservation target for the energy intensity. But in the beginning of the 13th 5-year plan period, 2016, we set the double control target for energy intensity and the total energy consumption. We set the energy cap for the national, and we also allocate the energy conservation target to the local level and do the assessment of the energy conservation performance to the local level every year. And we also, by the end of last year, the Chinese government also released her national strategy on energy production and energy consumption. Within this strategy, the energy efficiency has been set the first priority in the energy the long-term energy strategy by 2030. And the second feature is about Chinese government. With years' efforts, the Chinese government has set up a well-institutional arrangements for the energy management. We have central and local government to lead the energy conservation work, and we also have several government departments like the NDRC, the National Development and Reform Commission, and we also have a specialized department like Ministry of Industry and the Ministry of the Urban and Housing Industries to take charge in different sectors. And at the local level, we also have energy conservation centers at the town level. Even it is 3 levels: provincial, as a municipal, and the town level. So we have very comprehensive institutional arrangements for the energy management. And for a third point, the technology innovation in China has explored more space for the energy efficiency. As you may know, that technologies like the artificial intelligence and the cloud technology and the database, technologies like this develop very rapidly in China. So it's bring more opportunities for our energy efficiency work in China. And the last is about the international cooperation. I think the China government become more and more active in the international collaborations on energy efficiency. Like we jointly developed the energy efficiency leadership program under the G20 frame, and we also carried out many bilateral collaborations with our other countries. So we hope China could be more to share her experience. We have a lot of best practice, so we can share the experience as well as the lessons we have to other countries on the energy efficiency work to the world, make them more contribution to the world. So that's all for my presentation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Sang. So the efficiency market report 2 years ago covered the very good, strong the performance of energy efficiency improvements in China, and I think we really appreciate this update that the momentum is still continuing. So I'm sorry, I have to admit that we are way behind schedule. So unless there is any kind of a burning question from the floor, I think I would like to go immediately to the coffee break. But I understand that there's the live polling question before the close of the session. So I think that you should be able to find that in your the app on the mobile phone. So that I would like you to, so this is the question, what is the most influential political driver for the energy efficiency in your country? So we would like to announce the outcome at the start of the next part of this insight. So, we'll take the coffee break until So we'll be taking the 20 minutes coffee break. So let's get together. Please come back at by 3:15. Thank you very much. And I would like you to join me in thanking the excellent panel members here. Thank you. Thank you so much.